Dear book lovers, chers passionnés de littérature, beste literatuurliefhebbers, welcome to the opening night of the Passa Festival. Over the course of a weekend, 100 Belgian and international writers come together to share ideas and their passion for literature in 20 different locations in Brussels. Notre festival de littérature est une invitation à tracer votre propre parcours selon vos affinités et votre curiosité, à arrêter le temps pour un week-end pour faire le plein d'idées et d'histoires issues du monde entier. One of the writers present this weekend is the British-Hungarian Frank Furedi, who will talk about his latest book, The Power of Reading, in which he states that ours is an information age, not an age of ideas. The Passa Festival, however, goes against the grain in being a festival of ideas. De schrijvers die we dit weekend met u en duizenden andere lezers delen, namen de tijd om na te denken, ideeën te ontwikkelen en betekenis te geven aan de wereld via hun boeken. And readers are invited to read the world through these stories, texts, and conversations. One of the main characters of Paul Auster's new novel is surprised by how a writer understands all of life. Paul Auster couldn't open the festival with us, much to his regret, but 3 of our prominent guests agreed to take the stage tonight and share their ideas about what we consider a guiding question for the Passa Festival: how to read the world. This question is formulated as an invitation to dialogue and to interact, and this is exactly what the Belgian writers Annelies Beck and Nathalie Skowronek will do with their colleagues, the Turkish Ece Temelkuran, the Iranian-French Negar Javadi, and the Colombian writer Juan Gabriel Vázquez. Annelies Beck is a writer and journalist. She is the author of the historical novel Over het Kanaal, Across the Channel, and the philosophical story Toen de zee stil was, When the Sea Was Quiet. In 2017, later this year, she will release her new novel Toekomstkoorts. She's a journalist with the Flemish public broadcaster VRT, where she presents the daily current affairs program Ter Zake. Ece Temelkuran is one of Turkey's best-known novelists and political commentators. She lived and wrote in several countries, such as Lebanon, Tunisia, France, and the UK. Her novels Banana Sounds, Women Who Blow on Knots, and The Time of Mute Swans are published in several languages. Before she lost her job to the political oppression in Turkey, she was a journalist for 20 years. In 2015, she was writer-in-residence at Passa International House of Literature in Brussels, where Annelies Beck interviewed her, and they struck up a friendship. And that's where we will pick up. Annelies and Ece, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, you look beautiful. And you are here in numbers. Thank you for that, even though we are not Paul Auster. We love you for it. We're going to talk, like Ilke said, about literature. That's the core of this festival. But in the world we live in today, it is, or not, that's a question, maybe, tainted by politics somehow. And that's what we will be talking about tonight, because most of the guests, or all of the guests tonight here, will have other conversations during the course of the weekend, each with their own angle. So here we are really going to go for hardcore literature. Okay? Good. You have no choice. Ece, a couple of weeks ago, I came across a tweet, and it showed a little boy sitting on the steps in front of a house, reading a book or a newspaper, I can't tell anymore. And it was one of these GIFs that goes around in loops. And at a certain point, while he's reading, very absorbed, he does that to someone outside the image who's calling him. And the person who had tweeted this had written the following sentence accompanying this image: "This is me while reading Ece Temelkuran." And I loved it. It was absolutely something I can relate to, but I also thought, no, this is Ece reading, I think, as a child. Am I right? Were you the kind of reader as a child that was immersed in a book?
First of all, I'm so surprised that you saw the tweet. It was a funny tweet. Hello and welcome again. I don't remember the childhood that much, but then today I am that reader. Like when I'm reading, I don't want to see anybody else, and I don't want to be disturbed and so on. And more so when I'm writing. Because reading is going to another world, and you don't want to be distracted by the banal reality of the world, I think.
You say you don't remember much of the child phase. Were there books around when you were young? Can you talk about that?
Very, very much so. I was always fascinated by the magical process of thoughts becoming shades on the paper and then turning into voice when reading. I was watching my mother reading, and I was amazed by the idea that she's seeing things on the paper and then she's turning those things into sound. And the first book that sort of determined my life was Little Black Fish, which she read to me. And it was by an Iranian writer, Samet Behrengi, who was killed by Shah during that era. And the story is, there's this little blackfish. He lives in a little river, and then one day he decides to go to the big sea. And her mother thinks he shouldn't, but then he does, and then he goes around, lives adventures, dangerous adventures as well, and then he comes back home and tells the story. Well, my mother read the story like this, and then after 20 years, I think, I found out that the ending of the story was not like that. The ending of the story was little blackfish goes to the sea, and nobody hears from him anymore. But my mom thought that it's a great idea to give a happy ending to the story, and she wouldn't know that would determine my life and make me a black fish who is going around the world and collecting stories, imagining or dreaming to come back home and tell the stories.
What is it that, if you can recall, that attracted you, apart from this magical thing happening, the way you describe it, signs or something on a page becoming speech or becoming voice, becoming something else? What was it you looked for in text? Was it wanting to know? Was it stories? Can you describe it?
I think when you first start to read, you feel like, I'm one of those now who can read, like in early ages. And then what you look for in later years, maybe, to know more through reading and to be cool, actually, especially your teenage years is like,
Was it cool as a teenager to
Well,
read?
I was living in a bizarre environment. Books were cool. So yeah, and then it makes you cool to read, I don't know, Hannah Arendt when you're 16, as if you understand anything. Or reading Marx, the big one.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, but then I think when you age, reading becomes literally a part of your life. And then you start reading to connect not only to the reader, but to those who read books as well. And you become, I personally read to become a better person.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Hannah Arendt, Marx. How did you know what you wanted to read?
It wouldn't be a surprise to tell that I grew up in a leftist family, so I remember myself trying to learn reading through those books, the big books that were in the library, like Trotsky, sort of, or Stalin. Yeah, and not very, convenient names for learning reading.
So you picked books from the library at home?
No, I didn't. Somehow, I realized this in later years that, the grown-up books are there just to admire. They have this sacred thing. It is as if you cannot read them, even though you know how to read. And then I started touching those books. It was really later on. And yeah, and I became familiar with Hannah Arendt and the other guys through my teenage years, which was too early to read, actually, those names.
Was there pleasure involved as well at that stage, or was it mostly wanting to know more, like you said? Information.
Wanting to understand more, and I'm still doing the same thing. And speaking of Hannah Arendt, I think we need to read her more and more now. It was awesome to hear that it is now selling a lot in the United States, which is very nice. So yeah, and now I'm reading. Really, I need to learn what happened to them, not only in political terms, but also on personal level as well. Because many people like me are going through the same thing that they did.
Meaning living outside your own country, or other
that
things?
as well, but not only that, but not understanding the people that you are living with. The feeling of feeling not at home, or the feeling of where did these people come from? Who manufactured these people who think that lying is a great idea and we can call it post-truth? Or where did these people come, all these people who think that not shaking the hand of Merkel is a cool thing? You see, in order to understand these things, in order to even share the feeling of feeling odd, I'm reading more and more that period and those people, actually.
To feel less lonely,
exactly.
in a way.
This is why we read in the first place, to feel less lonely. Mm-hmm. And to know that we are not this awkward creature.
And does it reassure you to read them? Or, because I can imagine that reading Hannah Arendt, for example, you come to the conclusion the human being is not learning anything. This is not really helping me, because here we are again.
I think we are the generation who is going to find out the ultimate answer to that question. We are the generation who is going to answer the question of, is this the last century of humanity? Is world a still place to live, or are those of us who have money will go to Mars and forget about the rest of the history? I think this is the generation who will be answering that question, and we will need the accumulated information and knowledge of the prior, generation.
And there is this interest in politics, this need to understand, and yet you start writing poems and novels.
Well, writing in its very essence, I think, is poetry. It depends on how much you put reality in it. It depends on how much reality dilutes the thing. If you dilute too much, if you dilute the poetry with too much reality, it becomes journalism, for instance. If you put less reality, it becomes a novel. But everything, all together, all writing is poetry.
And how do you decide, or how do you know this needs to be a novel? Is it a matter of knowing this is the shape or form I want to give this information, story, people, or how does it take the shape it takes? What comes first?
The shape does not come first. I think, in my experience, the character comes. There is this person, all of a sudden I start seeing it, it sounds schizophrenic, but it's almost like this. In order to not become complete cases, we are writing, and this is the actually, ultimate truth about writing. And I first see this character, and he starts living with me, or she, and then I look at her or him, and more, the more I look at this person, I learned the story of this person, and then, yeah, your story is interesting. Why don't I make a novel out of you? This is how it goes. Yeah.
And how do you feel about the position of the novel? This is going to sound so wrong. In the world. I mean, what does a novel bring that another kind of writing doesn't?
I think novel is about forgiveness. Because in order to be able to write about person, you have to forgive her or him. Because if you don't forgive him or forgive her, you cannot write the entirety of that person.
So you have to forgive the imperfections? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, imperfections. And you have to go beyond your own hatreds or own angers or your own intolerance. Although I do think that if you write an evil person, about an evil person, or if you write about a story about evil, this means that you are visiting that evil through writing. And I think nobody is the same if they write about evil. They become different people. So I am, also almost rejecting writing evil, not to visit evil, not to become part of it, not to be contaminated by evil, which makes me a horrible writer. But then sometimes I think one has to make a choice about being a better person and a better writer. And as a not so good writer, I most of the time choose being a better person.
It's either or for you.
Not for me. I think this is the reality. And, there has been a discussion about this in Turkey. A certain writer is too good a person to be a good writer, which is true. And I think this is an ethical choice as well. And in practical life, it becomes a choice because really becoming a good writer is about how many of those who you love you can kill. And how many characters can you kill? And this is another level of writing, but as you improve in your writing, you come to that level and you, at the end, make that ethical decision. So yeah.
So it's a choice about being ruthless or not.
Exactly. Cut the bridges or, burn the bridges with the other human beings.
Mm-hmm. And, as you said, the irony is, reading to you is about connecting. That's the essence of reading.
Yeah, connecting in a different way. I mean, like when you cut your practical ties with humans, I think you connect to humanity in a different level, which makes you a very, very lonely person, but I think a better writer. Unfortunately.
That's a tough choice to make.
Yeah,
Very
it
tough.
sounded so tragic all of a sudden.
Yeah,
when I said it.
I'm digesting this. An avid reader, can you say something about if and how, if so, how it influences your writing? I mean, there are writers who do not read while they are in a writing project, or who go to authors that, this is a story Zadie Smith once described in one of her essays. When she feels she is writing in a very dry and uninspired way, she reads one author that has a very flowery, Baroque style. If she feels she's overwriting something, she might go to another writer and reread parts of that in order to come into the right sphere or style mode, so to speak. That's a very literal way of being influenced, but can you point to authors that you say, well, I take my cues from them, or that helped me at some stage?
I think there are two types of writers. One type of writer is feeding on books and reading while writing. And the other type, which I am one of them, feeds on life itself, daily life, and human beings. I think I'm in the second group. On the other hand, there are writers, I can kill you because you're so awesome, and I cannot be as awesome as you. One of them is Coetzee, and lately I discovered, thanks to you, Clarice Lispector. And yeah, there are several writers that I go, not during writing, but during my obsessively reading periods. And yeah, it makes you feel sort of privileged in a way to assume that you understand them better than the others. This is the magic that a good writer creates. It makes you feel like you are the only one who understands him or her. And there are certain writers who make me feel that way, certainly.
In Women Who Blow on Knots, that will appear shortly in English, but already exists in French. It takes place in Tunisia, set in Tunisia. You were in Tunisia, and you weave the story of Dido of Aeneas, in this contemporary story for young women. I was wondering, the classics, because we had discussion about Antigone earlier as well. What do they mean to you? Or is that because at that time, for that location, this was appropriate? Let me put it another way. For the canon, I think in Western Europe, the classics are somewhere, even if you haven't studied Latin or Greek, they are sort of around. How self-evident is that in Asia Minor at that time, Turkey?
It's not like that, obviously. But those classics almost provokes me to rewrite them sometimes, and rewrite them in a different way, as in this à quoi bon la révolution si ne je peux danser?
Absolutely.
That is the French title of the book. Dido, the story of the Dido in mythology goes, she runs from Beirut to Tunisia, Carthage, and she establishes the Carthage civilization. And then this guy comes along. Of course, he's an asshole, and she falls in love with the guy, and then she commits suicide, which was a horrible story, and it could have not been like that. So I thought, of course, I have to write the real version of this story, which is something else. It is in the book. So these, classics are not there for me, but it is like here on the table and like all around me. So I feel like it's a real story that I heard from someone or something, or even I saw it. Therefore, it's not classics. It's a story that needs to be retold and retold again. But especially those stories about women interests me, because I do think that they are manipulated. They're not told correctly, most of them. In Rwanda, there is this first woman poet, for instance. I really need to write her story, rewrite her story now, because that ending does not suit the character. And there is something wrong with classics when it comes to women. It's not consistent. There are these amazing women characters, and then they do this horrible, pathetic, tragic, like stupid thing that cannot be. And the only reason the ending is like that, because it was written by a man. So let's just fix it, shall we?
Okay, you have your work cut out for you. There's a lot of rewriting to do.
Exactly. Well, there is the magic of stories. This is why I want to rewrite those stories, because the story does not only tell a story, but also it redefines the reality. It teaches you something about truth. And if we don't rewrite those wrong stories, this means that we are going to be taught over and over again this wrong story.
I want to quote yourself back to you from your latest book that came out here, Turkey, the Insane and the Melancholy. At the very end, you say, I have withdrawn from the daily reality of journalism, maybe, and sought refuge in the truth of literature. It's from the shore of that truth that I have attempted to write this book. The book I'm referring to is non-fiction. You're explaining Turkey to a friend from abroad who was asking you tell me about Turkey, basically. But here's that truth again that you find on literature's shore. What truth can be found there then? About us, who we are? It's hard not to talk in cliches about that question, I know, but
I think in order to reach that shore of truth, you swim a long, a long way within the sea ocean of reality. And while swimming through that ocean, you see the repetitions and the patterns. And then it becomes meaningless to look at the reality individually. Well, once you start seeing the patterns of human beings, of history, of politics, and so on and so forth, you feel like, let's take a step back and speak about the patterns now, speak about the big narrative of humanity. Because we can do that, because now we can see it. So the shore of truth is something like that, where you can see the patterns of time and humans. And I chose to write this book about Turkey from that shore of truth, because Turkey is bombarded with reality. And right now, my country is seen as one of those crazy countries where anything can happen. This wasn't like that a decade ago, but it is. And I know now how a country becomes like that, from sanity to insanity. I witnessed it, like many others, and I wanted to explain the narrative, show the narrative, how it became like that. Because I do think that many countries in the world, including countries in Europe, will be witnessing similar developments, not only in politics, but also in societal terms.
is it possible at all to be a writer, be it a poet, a novelist, a non-fiction writer, in Turkey or from Turkey, and not be political or be seen as political?
This is a lovely question, and I love to answer this question. I'm now answering. Are you ready? It is impossible to be apolitical, unpolitical, but it's very, very possible to be political in the wrong way. And there are two types of being political in the wrong way. One is over-politicization, and second, basically, standing for the wrong side.
Obviously.
And there have been a lot of writers like that. I feel so, I don't know, I'm having pleasure now talking about this. There have been a lot of writers, intellectuals and journalists who have been standing on the wrong side. And this is another pattern of humanity, which I learned from Second World War era as well. These guys who have been religiously supporting intellectuals, writers, and journalists, who have been religiously supporting the political power in Turkey, made an incredible twist very quickly, in a magical way, and now they are the victims of this political oppression in Turkey. And this, for instance, cannot be told if you look at the reality. You have to take a step back to see the truth of human being, how miserable it is, actually, and how deceiving it can be most of the time.
Mm-hmm. You yourself are living outside Turkey right now. Mm-hmm. You think it will, apart from the fact that, of course, you have this distance now, you can see the patterns more clearly, but do you expect it to change your writing in another way as well? And I'm not talking about the journalism, because you are being asked by BBC, CNN, you name them, all the media outlets to explain Turkey, to give your point of view, but as a novelist, do you think it will change your writing, being abroad?
About the first part of the question, I am away from Turkey part. I think there is a new nation in the world, and which I call it screen nation. And there are many countries, citizens of several countries living in this screen nation. There are Iranians, Iraqis, Afghanis, Syrians, and Turkish people. They are maybe living in different parts of the world, and especially European countries, but they are stuck to their screen. So actually, they are physically in the country, but they are not in reality living in that country. They are connected to their home country. So this is a screen nation, and most probably I am a citizen of that nation now, like many others. As for writing, changing the writing, yes, because in political countries, over-politicized countries, and if you come from a political family like mine, you feel like writing something outside politics is something luxurious, and it's something you cannot make a comment on it without condescending remarks. It is like for those stupid people, of course.
Frivolous.
Yeah, exactly. But then now I can see that, my writing is going a bit towards non-political, although I think that everything is, and every single thing is political. And the most political statement on this world is, well, I don't like politics. That's a very, very dangerous and very political statement. And I would never say that, but I can see myself, going back to poetry a little bit. Because, being outside Turkey gives you a peace of mind to observe your own thoughts, in a way.
That's something to look forward to, poems from you.
Thank you very much.
That's what we will leave it at this for now. Ladies and gentlemen, Ece Temelkuran. So, it is now my honor and pleasure to introduce you to the next two conversationalists. Negar Javadi was born in Tehran in 1969. She's the daughter of political activists and fled to Iran to join her father, who lived in exile in Paris at a time when the Iranian Revolution broke out. She was a student here in Brussels at INSAS, and for a while taught cinema in Paris, and she directed and directs movies that are being selected to a number of festivals. In her first and much applauded novel, Des Orientales, that came out last year, published by Édition Liana Levy, she tells the story of three generations of an Iranian family, from the point of view of the main character, Kimia Sadr. Negar Javadi has written a novel that is, again that word, political, literary, and engaged, about the Iran of her childhood and the France of her illusions. It's a story with the echo of the fables of 1001 Nights, and at the same time interwoven with a very contemporary story of the here and now. To interview her, here is Nathalie Skowronek. She came to the fore with Karen et moi, a novel that pays homage to Karen Blixen. It put Nathalie immediately and squarely on Belgium's literary map. Her latest novel, Un monde sur mesure, just came out with Édition Grasset. In it, she describes an unfamiliar, even unknown world, that of those who sell Jewish clothes in Flanders and Wallonia. It's the world of Skowronek's childhood, in fact. And that is what makes her work stand out. The talent to make a world that no longer exists come to life again and make it comprehensible to those who've never heard of it and who don't know it at all. Ladies and gentlemen, Nathalie Skowronek and Negar Javadi.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir Negar Javadi, bonsoir à tous. Alors je suis formidablement heureuse de vous recevoir aujourd'hui et de pouvoir parler avec vous, au point que j'ai même eu un moment l'horrible pensée de me réjouir de l'annulation de Paul Auster. Parce que Des Orientales est un livre vraiment formidable qui donne une vraie vision du monde, une vision de l'Iran, et qui aussi est un vrai parti pris de la littérature, de mélanger le passé, le présent, de s'appuyer sur la mémoire. Et je n'ai pas été la seule à aimer ce livre, puisqu'il a été très très justement célébré l'année dernière et cette année encore, et récemment encore à Bruxelles avec le prix Première. Et ça fait plaisir de voir la belle littérature justement accueillie et célébrée. On aura l'occasion durant le week-end avec Jean-Claude Van Troyen de parler plus longuement de votre livre. Et donc l'idée ici, c'est finalement d'essayer de sentir quelle est la vision d'un écrivain, la vision sur le monde. On vient d'entendre maintenant cet échange entre Anis Beck et Ece Temelkuran, et voilà, ce qui m'est venu. Donc Ece Temelkuran vient de Turquie. Il y a un passage dans votre livre, donc vous êtes issu d'une famille iranienne, vous avez fui la révolution iranienne, et dans votre livre, une héroïne fait ce même parcours-là, et vous racontez sa fuite d'Iran pour arriver en France. Pour fuir, elle va passer par la Turquie, à dos de cheval, et elle pense à ce moment-là, votre héroïne, elle pense à sa grand-mère maternelle, qui elle était arménienne et qui a fui la Turquie pour se réfugier en Iran. Et vous avez le sentiment à ce moment-là d'une boucle qui se referme. Et vous entendant toutes les deux, je me demande, voilà, est-ce que votre vision du monde est liée à l'endroit où vous êtes nés ?
Sans aucun doute. Je pense que sans aucun doute, notre vision du monde, en fait, ce qu'on est, ou, enfin, je ne vais pas parler pour Ece, mais en tout cas en ce qui me concerne, c'est sûr que je suis née dans un pays qui a toujours été un pays où il y a eu la répression, c'était un pays où il y a eu des dictatures successives, un pays où les gens ont toujours couru après la liberté sans jamais l'avoir. Donc, de fait, j'ai grandi et je dois pas seulement parce que je suis née dans une famille d'opposants politiques, mais je pense que pas mal de jeunes Iraniens de ma génération ont grandi avec un monde où on était entre peur, mensonge, incompréhension en permanence. Et on a été structuré comme ça. D'ailleurs, dans le livre, je parle de ce que le mensonge a fait, de comment on apprend à mentir et comment on apprend à vivre dans une société où le non-dit est généralisé à tout. Donc, notre vision du monde est forcément sculptée dans cette incapacité à vraiment dire les choses et à les dire frontalement, et ce qui est un peu en opposition aussi avec l'écriture, c'est qu'il faut aller chercher la vérité et il faut se faire violence pour aller plus loin, enlever ses propres filtres, enlever les filtres de ses croyances ou de ses familles ou de ce conservatisme qu'on nous a inculqué et aller au-delà pour raconter des histoires. Oui.
Vous dites justement que finalement, cette identité qui vous colle à la peau, à un moment donné, ça devient un poids. Vous avez envie de la fuir aussi, ça devient lourd. Est-ce que la littérature, ça a été finalement une façon pour vous d'ouvrir les frontières ?
L'art en général, je dirais. Pas seulement la littérature, mais l'art en général. Et en fait, je dis l'art parce que tout ce qui est musique, chanson, danse, c'est très tabou. On est dans des sociétés où tout ça n'existe pas vraiment, c'est pas dans le quotidien. Ça existe de façon festive, mais ça n'existe pas en tant qu'art. Donc l'art a été vraiment une ouverture pour moi. J'ai fait l'INSAS, comme on l'a dit, donc je suis scénariste, je fais du cinéma, et au-delà de littérature, l'image aussi a fait beaucoup pour cette... Comme je vous l'ai dit, c'était une manière pour moi de dépasser un peu ces peurs, de dépasser ces mensonges et de pouvoir aller chercher chez les autres comment eux vivent une vie sans révolution, sans répression, une vie de liberté. Comment c'est, par exemple, quand je suis arrivée en France, c'est de regarder ces gens et de pouvoir analyser leur manière de réagir dans une société où on est libre, ce qui était assez exotique pour moi, en fait.
Et vous voulez dire que l'art est venu plus tard, ou déjà dans votre enfance et déjà en Iran, vous avez été connecté à ces vecteurs-là ?
J'étais plutôt connectée parce que bon, en Iran, on était envahi par les États-Unis à tous les niveaux. Donc, on avait une chaîne américaine. Donc, je regardais des films américains. Donc, c'est comme ça que je suis arrivée en fait vers le cinéma parce que très petite, je regardais cette chaîne américaine, c'était CBS, et on regardait des films en anglais. Donc, le cinéma est rentré dans ma vie par effraction, par par l'impérialisme américain qui a fait un peu le malheur de ce pays, mais qui m'a donné à moi l'envie de cinéma. Donc l'art est rentré comme ça, et la littérature par la famille, parce que oui, j'ai une famille d'opposants politiques, mais avec des parents qui avaient énormément de livres et qui étaient des intellectuels et qui étaient très francophiles. Donc il y avait une grande bibliothèque et les livres étaient là. Et moi, personnellement, j'ai eu envie d'écrire avant de lire. Quand petite, déjà, j'aimais raconter des histoires, mais pas tant lire, en fait. Donc, l'envie d'histoire était avant les livres.
Pourtant, vous êtes entre-temps, à mon avis, devenue une grande lectrice, parce que ce qu'on sent aussi quand on vous lit, c'est que la littérature est une forme de mode de connaissance. Quand les enfants de la famille se réfugient, par exemple, chez l'oncle, on est dans un monde comme ça de contes de fées, il n'y a plus de télé, on ne sort plus, on ne va plus à l'école, on est hors du réel. Vous évoquez Andersen, quand la mère de la narratrice se bat pour faire libérer son mari, vous parlez d'Antigone. Alors, est-ce que cette littérature-là, est-ce que ces livres-là vous ont quand même donné des outils de compréhension du monde ?
Totalement. De toute façon, c'est une fois que j'ai quitté l'Iran, parce que bon, la révolution a commencé pour moi dans ma famille, j'avais 6-7 ans. Donc après ça, c'était vraiment la tempête de la révolution. Donc il n'était même plus question de livres, de littérature, de télévision, de cinéma, de rien du tout. On était emportés par la révolution. Et puis plus tard, en 79, quand Khomeini est arrivé, et voilà, donc de mes 6 ans à mes 11 ans, jusqu'au départ de l'Iran, j'étais vraiment dans ce mouvement révolutionnaire, d'abord dans la famille, après dans le pays, et puis les livres sont arrivés après, et toutes ces histoires sont arrivées après, et c'était pour moi une manière, parce que j'avais une langue qui était le persan, j'avais le français, mais j'avais du mal à le parler, voilà, je l'avais parlé enfant, mais j'avais du mal avec ça, et du coup, incapable de vraiment communiquer avec les mots, j'allais pas vraiment vers les autres, et je me suis réfugiée un peu dans le cinéma et dans la littérature. Et c'est comme ça que, c'est-à-dire quand je parle d'Antigone, c'est pas l'enfant qui parle d'Antigone, c'est l'adulte qui parle d'Antigone et qui voit sa mère comme ça.
Donc c'est après coup, a posteriori, quand vous retournez vers votre histoire, que finalement la littérature vous donne des outils.
C'est la littérature qui donne les clés de compréhension et qui fait de mon histoire à moi ou de l'histoire d'un peuple auquel j'appartenais et que j'ai vécu une histoire universelle. Et c'est comme ça que j'ai vu, en effet, quand j'ai lu Antigone, je me suis dit « Ah tiens !» Donc là, il y a quelque chose que je vois, où j'ai vu ma mère, opposante politique, faire ça, elle lui ressemblait. Donc tout ce qui était si singulier à l'époque pour moi, qui était si peut-être même un peu dramatique et un peu tragique, a cessé peu à peu de l'être parce que d'autres l'avaient vécu et d'autres le racontaient. Et donc, moi aussi, je pouvais peu à peu essayer de le raconter, justement en débarrassant toute cette histoire de ce que ça avait de dramatique et en essayant de la rendre romanesque.
Alors justement, vous venez du cinéma, vous êtes porteuse d'une histoire très forte que vous avez choisi de raconter par le biais de la fiction. Qu'est-ce qui a fait que cette histoire-là, elle est passée par les mots et pas par les images? Qu'est-ce qui a fait que c'est par le livre?
Écoutez, beaucoup de choses sont passées par là. En fait, j'avais envie non seulement de raconter une histoire romanesque, mais je savais qu'au fil de cette histoire-là, en fait, il y a des choses à dire que j'ai envie de dire. Et il y a des réflexions que j'ai envie d'avoir, pas seulement avec moi-même, entre moi et moi, mais avec une société dans laquelle je vis. Par exemple, c'est tout ce qui concerne l'identité. Qu'est-ce que l'identité? Donc, bien sûr, le romanesque peut permettre d'interroger et de parler de ces questions, mais il y avait aussi j'allais dire, une chaîne de réflexion autour de ça que j'avais envie de mettre quelque part. Et dans le cinéma, c'est impossible. Déjà, le cinéma, ça coûte extrêmement cher. Donc, aller tourner en Iran au 19e siècle ou faire construire une révolution, c'est impossible. Donc, le livre était le lieu de ça. Et puis, le lieu de ça, parce que voilà, on est seul avec soi et on peut voyager aussi loin qu'on veut. Et voilà, ça coûte pas cher. Et d'autre part, parce que ça me permettait aussi de distiller des réflexions du personnage ou de moi dans le livre. Donc c'était du romanesque, mais avec quand même, par moments, des réflexions, des envies de dire des choses qui pouvaient rentrer là-dedans, chose que je ne pouvais pas faire avec le cinéma.
Est-ce que vous vous sentiez, est-ce que vous êtes senti engagé, c'est un mot très fort et très galvaudé, mais est-ce que vous vous êtes senti en tant qu'écrivain et en tant que membre de cette famille-là, responsable de cette histoire-là? Il y a une scène très forte dans votre livre, au moment de l'arrestation du père, il y a justement un journaliste anti-américain, mais américain qui est sur place et qui va prendre à chaud comme ça les premiers retours de la petite fille Kimia, qui est certainement votre double romanesque. Et donc, il en fait d'emblée une témoin. Est-ce que le fait d'avoir été témoin, dès vos 7 ans, témoin de cette histoire-là, vous a amené à la littérature et vous engage d'une façon plus générale en tant qu'écrivain ?
Je ne voulais pas que ça soit ça, mais je pense que ça l'est devenu. Et je pense que ça l'est devenu par le retour que j'ai des gens qui m'entourent, de ma famille, et par le retour que j'ai de certains Iraniens. Je ne voulais pas être cette voix-là. Moi, j'avais envie de raconter une histoire et j'avais envie de dire une vérité dans cette histoire-là. Une vérité que les Iraniens ne disent pas et que les Occidentaux ne voient pas. Et d'ailleurs, il y a beaucoup d'Iraniens qui m'ont dit « Mais comment tu as osé écrire ce livre ?» Avec un grand sourire, hein, gentiment, mais comment tu as osé le faire? Mais maintenant, aujourd'hui, une fois que c'est fait, une fois que le livre existe, une fois qu'il est sorti, j'ai l'impression qu'on me remercie de ça, en fait, de l'avoir fait et d'avoir rendu une certaine fierté pour avoir parlé des figures comme Mohammad Mossadegh, par exemple, qui a été renversé qui était un premier ministre en Iran et dont le gouvernement a été renversé dans l'opération Ajax par les Américains, qui était une figure totalement oubliée. Donc, il a été l'homme de l'année par le magazine Times en 1951, mais aujourd'hui, tout le monde a oublié cet homme qui pourtant s'est opposé aux Anglais et qui pourtant a tenu bon jusqu'au bout, jusqu'à un procès absolument ubuesque où il arrivait en pyjama, voilà, et c'est assez incroyable et assez romanesque, mais tout le monde a oublié cet homme. Et par exemple, parler de lui a fait plaisir à beaucoup de monde. Et donc finalement, je me suis retrouvée à une place que je ne voulais pas. Et voilà.
Et donc, à ce moment-là, vous avez une sorte de littérature qui sauve les personnages.
Qui sauve la mémoire, en fait, de quelque chose qui était une mémoire qui était enterrée et finalement qui n'est peut-être plus assez spectaculaire au regard de ce qui se passe en Iran aujourd'hui, où c'est chaque jour, il y a quelque chose de très spectaculaire, les accords sur le nucléaire, et j'en passe. Et cet Iran-là, vraiment, ça commençait à faire partie d'un passé avec des couleurs sépia presque, avec des rayures comme des films Super 8, et d'avoir déterré ça, ça a été quelque chose d'assez important, et j'ai l'impression que ça devient aussi important pour moi d'ailleurs, parce que moi, mon envie c'était de raconter ces tyrans qu'on ne raconte pas, avant que ça s'oublie aussi de ma propre mémoire, parce que comme je ne vais pas en Iran, parfois je me demande si vraiment j'ai vécu tout ce que je raconte. Et finalement, moi-même, je me trouve à une place que je ne pensais pas, où la littérature m'a mise, et je ne pensais pas qu'elle me mettrait à cette place-là, en fait.
Vous ne vous êtes pas soupçonné écrivain ?
Écrivain, oui, mais pas comme une sorte de dépositaire d'une mémoire, comme l'oncle numéro 2 dans le livre, pas cette narratrice-là. Non, je ne pensais pas être celle-là. Et finalement, je le suis devenue.
Parce que justement, dans ce livre, il y a cet oncle qui est dépositaire de l'histoire et qui est un espèce de passeur. Il y a la mère qui raconte l'histoire. Et vous faites le choix de la fiction pour raconter votre propre histoire.
En fait, j'aurais pu, dans le livre, ce qui concerne la révolution que j'ai vécue correspond à peu près à ce que j'ai vécu, de même le départ de l'Iran. Et j'ai fait le choix de la fiction parce que j'avais envie de raconter plus que mon histoire. Je n'ai pas le goût pour l'autofiction du tout. Donc j'avais pas envie de parler de moi. Je ne vois pas en quoi il y avait un intérêt à parler de moi. Tout le monde a une histoire. Moi j'en ai une, mais il y a plein de gens qui ont des histoires. Et peut-être parfois même plus racontable que moi. Et moi, raconter mon histoire au milieu de... Je ne me voyais pas faire une chose pareille. En revanche, raconter du romanesque, ça oui. Donner à voyager, à connaître quelque chose que les gens ne connaissent pas, les emmener plus loin, ça oui. Donc le romanesque me semblait vraiment la manière la plus juste d'inclure mon histoire à moi dans quelque chose de beaucoup plus large. Mais j'ai mis du temps pour ça, parce que j'ai mis du temps à aussi dépasser les interrogations qui sont liées à l'exil, à l'identité, tout ça, pour pouvoir en rire, tout simplement, et de faire quelque chose qui me dépasse moi et qui peut être transmis à d'autres.
Et donc qui vous a déplacé justement de cette idée d'être écrivain iranienne. C'est quelque chose aujourd'hui qui vous plaît, qui vous agace, qui vous pèse?
En fait, le fait d'être écrivain iranienne, je ne peux pas défendre j'allais dire étiquette, mais ça n'en est pas. Je ne peux pas défendre parce que je ne vais pas en Iran. Et très longtemps, je me suis battue contre ça. D'ailleurs, quand j'ai écrit des histoires au cinéma, des scénarios, j'ai jamais écrit sur l'Iran parce que je n'avais pas envie de cette étiquette-là. Et l'étiquette vient très vite parce que je l'ai vue sur d'autres. Je l'ai vue sur Marjane Satrapi, je l'ai vue sur d'autres écrivains. Et l'étiquette vient très vite. Et moi, je ne pouvais pas me retrouver sur une scène comme ici ou à une rencontre et parler d'un Iran que je ne connais absolument pas. D'ailleurs, l'histoire de Désert oriental s'arrête en 79. Donc, l'étiquette, je ne pouvais pas la porter. Et je n'avais pas les armes pour. Je n'avais pas envie d'être celle-là. Moi, je me suis, d'une certaine manière, je dis ça, mais ce n'est pas négatif, mais je me suis construite contre l'Iran. Parce qu'il fallait bien avancer, parce qu'il fallait bien grandir, il fallait bien faire sa vie. J'avais 11 ans, donc je me suis construite contre, sachant que je ne pourrais pas y retourner, et je n'avais pas envie de porter quelque chose que je ne portais pas dans ma vie tous les jours et qui n'était pas moi.
Et avec une famille absolument fascinée par la France et par les images iconiques des intellectuels français, Camus, Sartre et compagnie. Est-ce que c'est ça, cette littérature-là qui vous a fondé? Quels ont été finalement les livres, les penseurs, les personnages fondateurs pour vous?
Oui, je pense que c'est beaucoup plus cette littérature-là, d'ailleurs Camus, oui, penseur et romancier, qui m'a fondé bien plus que les romans. Moi, j'ai beaucoup plus lu d'essais. On parlait d'Hannah Arendt, mais j'ai beaucoup plus lu d'essais que de romans. J'ai commencé même à lire des essais, même si c'était abominablement difficile, je ne comprenais rien. Mais je me disais, voilà, là, il doit y avoir des clés pour comprendre tout ce qui se passe dans ce monde-là. Parce que très vite, j'ai pris le monde en pleine figure, j'allais dire. Et je n'ai pas eu... la possibilité d'explorer ce monde petit à petit pour arriver à le connaître, à grandir, et voilà, de passer d'une école solaire, d'un endroit solaire à quelque chose d'un peu plus complexe. Voilà, moi j'ai pris le monde, moi, d'un coup, dans la figure, et l'école, d'ailleurs, ça ne m'apportait pas grand-chose, parce que c'était trop angélique. J'avais déjà vu quelque chose de plus fort et de plus terrible, et cette façon de découvrir le monde, voilà, ça ne me correspondait pas. C'est pas que ça ne m'intéressait pas, mais ça ne me correspondait pas. Donc du coup, c'est vrai que j'ai commencé à lire des essais, tout simplement parce que je l'avais vu mes parents les lire, et voilà, c'est comme ça que j'ai commencé, et c'est là où j'ai cherché un peu le monde.
Et vous interrogez justement à travers les livres en se demandant si la littérature, elle est là pour parler du passé, pour parler du présent, pour parler de l'avenir. Et vous avez une réponse à cette question-là ?
Je pense, je ne sais pas, non, il y a beaucoup de littérature, il y a beaucoup de formes de littérature différentes, et il y a des livres remarquables qui parlent du passé, des livres de science-fiction remarquables qui décrivent le présent dans un monde futur. Moi, j'ai un peu plus l'impression que pour moi, ça doit être du présent, la littérature. C'est plus le monde d'aujourd'hui et comment avoir un point de vue sur ce monde et peut-être même dépasser. Moi, j'ai un peu parfois l'impression que c'est... je suis assise dans un train avec un paysage qui défile et la vitre est un peu sale, salie par des discours politiques, salie par des discours médiatiques qui disent pas toujours complètement la vérité. Voilà, et je suis là, moi, avec des histoires à essayer de faire un peu propre. Voilà, pour voir un peu plus clair ce monde-là. Et je crois que c'est un monde du présent, même si le passé est là, mais l'histoire avec un grand H, elle a beaucoup, en tout cas, en ce qui me concerne.
Parce que vous interrogez beaucoup le monde contemporain dans des orientales aussi. Vous posez la question de la procréation médicalement assistée, vous posez la question de la préférence sexuelle, mais on a toujours ce sentiment que ces questions ultra-contemporaines sont envisagées avec tout le bagage, toute l'expérience, tout le d'où on vient qui est le vôtre.
Oui, en fait, peut-être c'est parce que vous avez posé une première question, est-ce qu'on voit le monde de... Moi, sans doute parce que dans ma vie, c'est comme ça, et j'ai essayé avec des orientales de décrire, il y a un personnage, il y a la narratrice Kimia, qui est à la fois, en effet, homosexuelle et à la fois immigrée. Et ce que j'ai essayé de faire, c'est que derrière cette personne-là, qu'elle soit homosexuelle, qu'elle soit immigrée ou autre, aujourd'hui, il y a une histoire. C'est vrai qu'on vit dans un monde où on parle énormément d'immigrés, énormément d'immigration. On les voit en masse, on les voit en gros plan déjà dans les journaux télévisés. Ils sont là tous, c'est les bateaux qui arrivent, c'est des gros plans et c'est des masses de gens. Et derrière chaque individu, il y a une histoire. Et moi, c'est ça que j'ai essayé de faire, que l'individu qu'on voit là, assise dans une salle d'attente, homo ou immigré, voilà, derrière elle, il y a toute une chaîne d'individus, d'histoires qui l'ont conduit jusque-là. Comme tous ces gens qui sont là sur des bateaux, ou cet enfant qui est mort sur une plage, même si sa vie est très très courte, eh ben, il y a une vie derrière. Et ce n'est pas qu'un petit immigré de plus qui vient envahir l'Europe. C'est toute une histoire qui l'a conduit jusque-là. Et en fait, c'était ça un peu, ma Kimia à moi, c'était cette histoire-là.
Donc c'est la littérature qui va donner à chaque individu une complexité, une histoire.
Et qui va lui donner une histoire parce que, en effet, quand on lit les faits divers, quand on voit la télévision, c'est des êtres anonymes. Et la littérature, c'est fait de personnages. C'est ce qu'on vient de dire avant. C'est-à-dire, voilà, la littérature crée des personnages et donne la parole à des êtres humains qui, au jour le jour, au quotidien, dans les journaux, à la télé, dans les informations, dans la bouche des politiques, sont le peuple, la masse, la foule, les immigrés ou le peuple. En France, on est en train de faire les élections, on dit tout le temps les Français, mais qui sont ces Français? Et la littérature est là pour donner un visage, un prénom, une histoire, créer un personnage. Et de fait, ce personnage porte le monde comme chacun de nous porte le monde. Mais on est noyé dans la masse et la littérature vient mettre un coup de projecteur sur un être humain et nous raconte le monde à travers cet être humain-là.
Javadi, merci beaucoup. Merci pour cette belle vision de la littérature.
Merci.
Donc nous allons poursuivre ce bel échange avec Juan Gabriel Vázquez. Après avoir passé des années à Paris, à Barcelone, à Bruxelles et aux États-Unis, Juan Gabriel Vázquez vit et travaille désormais en Colombie. Pendant longtemps, l'auteur a écrit autour de la Colombie. Et maintenant, désormais, il a fait le choix d'écrire sur la Colombie. Ses romans se concentrent sur les questions d'histoire, sur la question de la mémoire, sur cette idée de savoir mais à qui appartiennent ces histoires-là et sur les relations familiales. Il s'inspire aussi du fait qu'il est aujourd'hui à la fois fils et père et que cette position du centre lui permet d'explorer ces questions. Alors, Juan Gabriel Vázquez arrive après la génération de l'icône de la littérature colombienne qui est Gabriel García Márquez. Et à son tour, il s'attaque à son pays en essayant de tracer son propre chemin qui est plus réaliste. En plus d'écrire des romans, Juan Gabriel Vázquez a longtemps tenu une chronique politique dans un journal colombien. Il a reçu de nombreux prix et récompenses, parmi lesquels le Impact Dublin Literary Award de 2014 et le PEN English Award. Son dernier livre, La forma de las ruinas, en néerlandais de Vorm van Ruïnes, traite d'un meurtre politique en Colombie en 1948 et de l'impact qu'il a toujours eu une décennie plus tard. Voilà, Juan Gabriel Vázquez avec Anne-Lise Beck. Merci.
How was the flight?
It was recent.
Okay. It was very recent, you know. We were all holding our breath because he landed about, I think, 15 minutes, no, half an hour before we started here. So it was touch and go, as they say.
Yeah. I have never seen so many expressions of relief.
Exactly.
Thank you.
We're all very happy to have you here. Let me start and get out of the way one of the most annoying questions you always get, I guess. How
Yes, I
dare
know.
one...
Okay, so Gabriel García Márquez.
How daunting is it to want to be a writer in Colombia after Márquez?
I think there's a huge misunderstanding around this. First of all, Annelies, thank you for doing this, and thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be here in Brussels again. There's a huge misunderstanding around the question of García Márquez and his presence in the work of all of us, writers, novelists, who came after the great legacy of one of the great stylists, really, in my language, and probably the author of the most influential novel in the history of the Spanish language, second only to Don Quixote, probably. But the idea that because I was born within the same borders, then his influence would fall on me, as if it wasn't influence, but influenza. As if somebody sneezed in the street and, oh, I get a little bit of magical realism. It really doesn't work that way. I've always thought that the way literary influence works belongs much more to the realm of choice than to chance. That is, when you're growing up as a novelist, when you realize you have these obsessions, these ghosts, these demons in your head, and you're looking for a way to give them literary shape. Literature is form, first of all. Form is what makes your demons come to the surface. When you're going through that process, if deep down you're a writer, I think you are able to choose your influences. You're able to recognize that such and such writer can have lessons for you, can teach you how to do some things.
So who did you choose?
Well, there were people within my language, like Mario Vargas Llosa, who was very useful for me. Joseph Conrad, among the great dead, and then I can think of really many people. William Faulkner was very important for me. But this is what's interesting. When the same thing happened to García Márquez himself. When Gabriel García Márquez began writing his novels, there was no Colombian tradition to speak of. There were a couple of isolated books, isolated novels, but there was not a tradition,
Canon, so to speak.
a canon, that he could rely on. So his first teachers, his first masters were Kafka, Hemingway, Faulkner, people outside of his tradition and of his language. So when I began writing novels, the demons again that I needed to work out in my literature had more to do with Borges, Vargas Llosa, Juan Carlos Onetti, a great Uruguayan writer, or Conrad or Faulkner, than what magical realism allowed me to see. So you choose these things. You don't fall into their trap, you choose them.
You use the word useful. How are these influences useful? Do you read studying these writers, or do you have a problem and do you say, okay, who's going to help me solve this? Or how does it work? What's useful about these influences?
Yes, there's something that happens in a very irrational way, but there's also some very rational choices. You have recognized in some other writer's way of doing things something that you can appropriate to transform your own ideas into a written page. It has a lot to do with the fact that literature comes from a place which is very irrational. It comes from a deep place in ourselves, and in order to extract the meaning of that place, in order to make it come to the surface, you have to choose the right words. You have to choose the right shape, the right structure. And this is what tradition is for. You rely on tradition for doing just this, for trying to make your secrets and your mysteries come to the surface in the shape of a novel.
In the introduction, a number of themes, I would call it, were mentioned that relate to your work. History, memory,
Yes.
The unreliability of memory and history, who tells the story, why, the researching and searching inquisitive mind of the author and of characters in the novel. One question is, would you say, correct, I recognize those as my themes? And secondly, are they related to your demon, or how would you describe the demon that drives you in your writing?
Yes, I have a very hard time talking about themes. I don't write about themes.
Then don't.
Thank you.
But the demon is there.
Yes, yeah. In the shape of usually a character is what moves me. I agree with what was said here before. It all begins with a character, really. A character in some sort of trouble. Mm-hmm. For me, the main obsession is the place I'm interested in illuminating through fiction and through imagination is that crossroads where private lives, our most intimate lives, meets what we call the public world, history and politics, and what happens over there in that area we call the public world. That intersection is what I'm trying to write about, because some very interesting things happen there. And again, talking about influences, when I realized that this was what obsessed me, this place where history and politics meet us, regular human beings, and shape and change and have an impact on our public lives, on our private lives, I'm sorry. When I realized that there were so many novelists that had shared these obsessions with me, and so I looked for them as teachers. And so then came Philip Roth, for instance. Yeah, so many. Conrad does this in a very particular way. And I have completely forgotten where I was going with this.
We started with the demon, and when you
Yes.
found the intersection, public life, or the bigger world and the impact on the individual, that was where you wanted to be with your writing.
Yeah.
But that brings me to what Negar Javadi also said. This fraud is perhaps too strong a word. I can see you there. But this complex relation with your home country, yours, for Negar, Iran, and what you do with it. Do you step into it and tackle it straight on, or do you take a step back and say, no, I don't want anything, I don't want to be a representative of you?
Yeah.
Do you recognize that kind of dilemma?
Yes, yes. Well, it's supposed to be complex. It's supposed to be complex, otherwise it's sterile. I've always said that we grow up with this idea, I don't know if you share this, or this perception, that writers write about their home cities and their countries because these are the places they know. So if James Joyce writes about Dublin, it's because that is the place he knows. And Dostoevsky about St. Petersburg, and Mario Vargas Llosa about Lima, these are the places they know, this is why they write about them. I have never been able to agree with this. I think in my case, I read about Colombia because this is the place I thought I knew. This is the place that I grew up in, thinking I absolutely dominated its codes, its language, its present time as a result of its past history. And then all of a sudden something happens. Somebody tells me a story. I meet someone who comes like a ghost from the past to tell me that something absolutely amazing and incredible and terrifying had happened about a couple of feet from where I was standing. We write about our places because those are the places that we thought we knew, and then something happens and we realize we don't know the first thing about them. So writing is a way of asking questions. Writing fiction in any case is never about giving answers. It's never about telling people what you already know. It's about discovery. It's about the act of interrogation of reality. It's about going to places you have never been to. It's about saying things that you didn't know were there.
It's almost always, no, not almost always, but it's often a quest in
It is always
your
a
novels.
quest in my case, yes. I believe, I deeply, there's this page in Joseph Conrad's A Personal Record, his book of memoirs, that has nothing to do with novels, and yet to me it has become a sort of metaphor of what novels are, at least to me. Joseph Conrad is 8 years old, so this is 1865, and he is standing in front of a blank map of Africa. Blank, obviously, because
Unknown territory.
Unknown territory for colonialism, right? So it's unknown territory, and Conrad puts his finger in the middle of the map and says, when I grow up, I will go there. In the end, he went there. When he grew up, became a sailor, he became captain of this little ship, Belgian ship, called Le Roi des Belges.
Now we call our cafes Roi des Belges.
It's an improvement. With that ship, he made a trip into the heart of the Congo, and later on he wrote a novel about that, Heart of Darkness, which for me is one of the great novels of the English language. Now, that idea of going to using a blank map to go to a place you don't know, to go to a place nobody has ever been, that's why the map is blank. This is what novels do. Novels go to unknown territories. Of course, in the case of Conrad, it gets very complicated because, that map was only blank from the point of view of Europeans, obviously. But the metaphor is what I'm interested in. This idea of novels being a ship you use to explore places nobody has ever been before and bring us back the news of what is going on there. This is what I like.
It's interesting then to come across a passage in your latest novel, latest translated into Dutch, and I have to translate to English from the Dutch version, if you'll forgive me. But a character is saying to the narrator, that it's a bit silly, that he thinks it's silly that novelists cannot leave the past alone and do not have enough respect for true things that really happen, as if they're not interesting enough. And according to this character, Carvalho, novelists had already lost the battle because it's not about telling people or offering people a way out of the bad reality and everything that's not working for them in real life, but the idea is to confront reality and spit it in the face almost. Whereas the narrator says, no, we have to go into the domain of possibilities, of speculation, places that are no-go areas for journalists and history writers. So are you debating this with yourself here, or are you trying to convince us?
Yeah, I kind of agree with both.
So you split up your own argument
Yes.
into characters.
Well, I think this is what novelists do, right? D.H. Lawrence used to say that to write novels, you should be able to have an argument in your head and hold at least 15 or 16 different positions, and be right in all of them.
Imagine.
Yeah, this is the dialogue that goes on in novels. Always. That's also the reason novels are much more intelligent than their authors. They think about more things. They're able to understand and penetrate opposed ideas about the same thing.
But are they, in Colombia, for example, do they influence people? Are they seen as entertainment, or do people read in order to find a way to think about reality in Colombia? Because you mention also all the stories that go around the past that is not always told as it was, if ever that is possible, of course, the myths that go around. So do you add another layer of non-truth, or how do you look at that?
Well, so I should explain a little bit of what the novel is
Maybe, yes,
about.
please.
Yeah, it's an investigation carried out by several characters, or rather several different investigations, but they all turn around the idea of those moments in our national history when history lies to us. They usually come in the shape of a conspiracy, and there's usually someone murdered. In Colombia, we have several of those. One of them happened in 1948, and it really split the country's history in two. It was the murder of a left-wing politician called Jorge Eliezer Gaitán. And that murder is one of the several centers of the novel. The characters in the novel are people obsessed with the idea that official history has lied to us about those events, about that episode in history. And when history lies to us, then conspiracy theories
They flourish.
They flourish. And as Colombians, we have lived with this, with conspiracy theories that explain all the important, or rather the most notorious murders that have shaped, sadly, our recent history. So, the novel tries to figure out how do we inherit that. In a sense, it was born at a moment in which a very strange thing happened to me. My twin girls had just been born. This is the year 2005. And during those days in which they were spending their whole day in an incubator at the hospital, I met this man who said to me, I know you're interested in the murder of Gaitán. I want to show you something. He took me to his place and he took out a jar, a glass jar. Inside the jar was a vertebra, a human vertebra with the hole of one of the bullets that killed Jorge Eliezer Gaitán. So I had this in my hand. For an American, this is what I have been told by my American friends. It's as if we had in our hands a piece of JFK's brain or something like that. And I had this in my hand, a bone belonging to perhaps the most famous political victim of my country's violence. And so after this, I came back to the hospital and I took my daughters in my hands, and I really don't know if I gave the situation these words that I can use now, but at some level I thought, how will they inherit this past? How will the violence so present in Colombia, in the Colombian past, how is it transmitted from generation to generation, and how will it shape my daughters' lives, and how can I protect them? All those questions about the way we inherit history, past violence, etc., are at the center of the book. So it's not a historical novel. It's not. It's a novel. It's a novel about how the past penetrates our private lives and shapes them. Is it read this way in Colombia? Probably yes. Probably it's also read through it's inevitable and a little bit disappointing, but it's also read through my political columns.
You still write those?
I stopped writing my weekly political column in order to finish this novel, which was proving very difficult. But we have gone through very difficult times recently, politically, in Colombia. And
beyond the peace treaty
yes,
with Porta?
the peace treaty and the peace referendum of October of last year. And for 3 or 4 months before that, I again felt the necessity, kind of like the moral imperative, to go back into into political debates and try to shape a little bit of what was going on, which astonishingly you can do still.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it ever dangerous to be a writer in Colombia, or are writers just simply not considered interesting or threatening at all?
Well, there's this great story that happened to a friend of mine, Laura Restrepo. She's a great novelist, one of the best Colombian novelists right now. And she told me once, and she doesn't care that I reveal these secrets, that she, as a journalist, she had been researching about the drug lords of the Caribbean coast, the mafias, the drug mafias of the Caribbean coast. And at some point during her research, she got a call from the drug lords' lawyers who said, we know you're doing this. Stop doing this. Stop researching for your TV show or whatever. Otherwise, there will be consequences. And Laura, who is a very courageous woman, said, okay, I won't do my TV show, but can I write a novel? And the answer from the drug lords was, yeah, okay, because nobody reads novels anyway.
You feel, you say, I had to step into the political debate again at some point, even if I was finishing this novel. So are those separate things to you, the writing of fiction and then this, what is it,
Yes.
responsibility? Do you owe Colombia, the people something, or do you just want to put forward your own thoughts on this? How does that
Well,
work?
they're separate and they're opposite, and there's in a way a kind of schizophrenia, again, in the mind of a writer, of a novelist who writes political columns, because novels and political journalism come from different places in the head, and I think different outlooks, different worldviews. I think we write novels because we don't know. We write novels because we have questions, because we don't understand. We write about that which seems a dark area, an area of shadows. Whereas, at least in my case, we write journalism and political columns in particular because we think we know something. We think we have a little moment of certainty in what is our regular uncertainty in the world. We write because we want to convince people. We want, in that sense, to give answers. So it's a radically opposed way of looking at the world than the novelists, right? And that can become a difficult fight within a novelist's life, I think, and inside
Practically
her head.
speaking, or mind-wise as well?
I think as well, yes, yeah. And then there's also the risk, which we all take at that moment, of having political opinions obliterate or at least veil the literary work, and this is something that I fear.
That your name on the book, on the novel, will already color people's judgment and people's reading of your novel? Is that what you're saying?
That's part of what I'm saying, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So are you thinking of giving it up again, maybe?
The
columns?
political, I don't think I can, is the thing, yeah. I think I've always been interested in a certain idea of literature as something deeply engaged with reality. My novels are all, in one sense or another, political. But they come from a different place, and they're not supposed to do some things that I deeply care about, like defending a certain idea of my country that I would like to see, a liberal place, a tolerant place, different in some senses from what I see today, which is an intolerant country, full of little fundamentalisms that poison our lives. And in a way, the world around us has also changed recently in a way that demands more presence, I think, from a certain kind of opinion in a certain kind of media.
So you see it as a calling to oppose, in a way, a trend that's setting now, or a zeitgeist almost.
I've been speaking for at least 10 years about the dangers of social networks and about how social networks have absolutely damaged the level of political debates, and they have distorted our way of looking at the world. And I said this 10 years ago, and everybody looked at me as if I was crazy. And now in the time of post-truth, I think in a way that ugly world has materialized. And I think there's a lot to say for the fact that in this kind of world, novels have a role to play in the sense of what Carlos Fuentes, a great Mexican novelist, said. He said that imagination is the transformation of experience into knowledge in an area in which we live in seas of information 1 centimeter deep. This idea of imagination, of moral imagination, of living in somebody else's world for a sustained amount of time, which is what we do when we read novels, could be very useful, could enlarge our sense of what human beings are, which is, I think, we are badly in need of.
I think this ties in beautifully with what Ilke said in the beginning, was the whole idea behind the festival this year. And I would like to leave it at this, apart from one question that is also probably, one that you've heard before. But the ultimate political engagement as a novelist can also take the form of running for president or being a politician. Have you ever considered that? It's been done before in South America.
With terrible results.
You can be the judge of that.
I will never in my life
There's lots of witnesses.
become a politician. Yeah, I think the worldview of or rather, let's talk about language. The language in politics does all the things that a good novel never does, and the other way around. I mean absolutely no disrespect. There are politicians out there that I admire, not few, but they do exist. But the language of a politician always aims for simplification. The language of a novel always aims for complexity. The language of a politician always aims to divide the world in black and white. The language of a novel deals in grays. It loves gray. It loves ambiguity. It loves irony. Some politicians wouldn't know irony if it hit them in the face. So there are these ethics that are at odds with each other. I'd much rather, stay as I am.
Okay, we love you for that. Thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you
Gabriel
very much,
Vázquez.
everybody. Thank you. Oh, so I stay.
We presented writers for you tonight coming from different worlds. You presented them as writers from Turkey, Iran, Colombia, but we know they've arrived, at least this week, from Zagreb, Zurich, and Paris. They each have different stories. They will share this with you over the rest of the weekend. But as writers, they seem to have in common their quest for truth, truth with a capital T, beyond cliches, lies, the impossibility to describe reality, and truth perhaps defined as going to places that haven't been visited before. It all begins with a character that asks these writers to follow them and write their story, perhaps on the crossroads with the outside world. But it also began with books, with other writers, with libraries. Drug lords may think that no one reads them anymore, but we know better. And how we treat these libraries, books, stories, tell us something about our society. And in this respect, I can say I'm very grateful for all the support the festival receives from subsidizers, sponsors, media partners, and dozens of cultural colleagues who who helped the Passa Porta International House of Literature to put this festival together. I'm grateful for you being here tonight, and I invite you to discuss what we have discussed tonight during the book signing afterwards. And now I would like you to welcome back on stage Negar Javadi, Ece Temelkuran, Nathalie Skovrianek, and thank you Annelies Beck and Juan Gabriel Vasquez.